Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, President William Ruto of Kenya holds talks with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi, signs agreements. The process of Cyclone Michaung making landfall in India begins. Andhra Pradesh on alert. Tamil Nadu declares a holiday. Internet and telephone services down in southern Gaza as Israel presses on with its ground offensive in self-defense. And in hockey, the Men's Junior World Cup 2023 begins in Malaysia. Two-time champion India to face South Korea. India and Kenya signed MOUs in the presence of India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President of Kenya, William Ruto. At the joint press statement with the President of Kenya, William Ruto, India's Prime Minister Modi said that India and Kenya are countries that have a shared past and future.
आईटेक तथा आईसीसीआर स्कॉलरशिप के माध्यम से भारत के केनिया के लोगों की स्किल डेवलपमेंट और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दिया है। दो कृषि प्रधान अर्थव्यवस्थाओं के रूप में हमने अपने अनुभव साझा करने पर सहमति जताई। केनिया के कृषि क्षेत्र का आधुनिकीकरण करने के लिए हमने $250 मिलियन की लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट प्रदान करने का भी निर्णय लिया है। आधुनिक समय की जरूरतों के अनुसार हम टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन में अपना सहयोग बढ़ा रहे हैं। डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में भारत की उपलब्धियों को केनिया के साथ साझा करने के लिए हम पूरी तरह से तैयार हैं। इस महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर आज किए जा रहे समझौते से हमारे प्रयासों को बल मिलेगा।
Earlier, India's President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed the President of Kenya, William Ruto, at Rashtrapati Bhavan in India's capital, New Delhi. The Kenyan president was accorded a ceremonial welcome. He inspected a guard of honor. President Ruto hoped that his visit would strengthen the relations between the two countries.
My expectation is that we need to consolidate the relationship between Kenya and India. We are looking at how we can create partnership in the space of rural development, especially agriculture. We'll be looking at a space of how we can share in manufacture of vaccines, both for animal and human. We're looking at what we can do about genomics. We will be signing an agreement on also the digital space. We have a lot to learn from this great country, especially in the digital space.
President Ruto laid a wreath at Rajghat and paid tributes to Mahatma Gandhi. Reinvigorating the India-Kenya ties, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed Kenya's President William Ruto as the latter arrived for bilateral talks at Hyderabad House in New Delhi. Both sides held wide-ranging discussions on deepening the partnership and the roadmap that lies ahead. All right, joining me is Mr. Gurjeet Singh. Mr. Singh is a former Indian ambassador to Ethiopia, Djibouti, the African Union, Germany and Indonesia. Ambassador Singh, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, before I come to the contemporary times, Ambassador Singh, give our viewers a historical perspective, if you will, on India-Kenya relations. How have the ties evolved over the decades?
Thank you, Ramesh. India and Kenya are among the oldest formal relations between India and Africa. Even before independence, India had opened a commission over there with Apa Pant. And during British times, Indian traders, engineers, and architects were all there building the railway, carrying out trade. The administration was almost common between India and East Africa. Indian law, penal code, rupee, administration was all common. So there were very great commonalities which were strengthened after independence. Now, there is a large Indian community which is extremely prosperous and they contribute a lot to Kenyan development. I think that is deeply recognized. So they have led the investment-led model of India-Kenya partnership. Kenya is important to us because it is on the Indian Ocean coast and an important port between India and the southern Indian Ocean. So in many ways, India and Kenya have a very strong old partnership nurtured by years of dialogue and partnership, particularly thanks to the Indian diaspora.
Absolutely. It's interesting to know that, as you mentioned, India and Kenya shared a common currency. Is that correct, Ambassador Singh?
Yes.
Great. Now, coming to the present day, how would you describe or characterize the ties between India and Kenya today?
So President Ruto's visit comes after a gap of 6 years by a Kenyan president, and Prime Minister Modi had done a significant visit in 2016. So I think PM Modi had a very good relationship with the previous president, Kenyatta, and his Prime Minister, Odinga. Now, Ruto is opposed to both of them. So he has been a new kid on the block with whom India did not have much of a relationship. But Ruto is a great pragmatist. He realizes the value of India as a leader of the global south, as a country which has contributed an immense amount of investment in Kenya, and how in the Indo-Pacific context, though he doesn't say so, there is an immense balance. So what Ruto has been trying to do is find more and more avenues of Kenya's development in which he wants to branch out of the stranglehold that China had acquired. In this, relationship with India is extremely important. And I think, therefore, the Ruto has already been to 45 countries since becoming president. And he's turned up in India now, right after the Conference of Parties on Climate Change in Dubai. So I think the situation is right today, because both Prime Minister Modi and Ruto, I think, understand each other well, because both of them have commitment to the global south. Ruto has been positioning himself as another voice of leadership in the global south, particularly for Africa. And he has been saying much of what India said at the G20, particularly about reform of multilateral institutions and instead of begging for climate finance, doing something about it yourself through a large amount of renewable energy. So these things resonate with India.
Indeed. Ambassador Singh, I found it interesting that President Ruto said in that joint press statement with Prime Minister Modi at Hyderabad House in New Delhi that Kenya is in India for the long haul. And that, to my mind, is striking and self-explanatory as to where the two countries want to see themselves, in the years ahead. But talking about the central pillars of the relationship, what are the two countries doing, for instance, to boost trade and investment? Ambassador Singh?
Thank you. So the trade is not great. Our trade with Tanzania, whose president was here 2 months ago, is actually bigger. Tanzania is a great utilizer of Indian lines of credit, which again, Kenya is not. Kenya represents the investment-led model, whereas Tanzania represents the LOC-led model. Now, is this undergoing change? Because I noticed that Kenya has agreed to borrow $250 million line of credit from India, which is quite unprecedented. In the past, they hardly ever used them. So this could be a significance of what long haul means. Are we going to do infrastructure? Are we going to do solar? Are we going to do digital? I'm not very clear on that. But the fact that $250 million Kenya has agreed to borrow, this is significantly different from the earlier relationship with Kenya.
Ambassador Singh, is there scope for India and Kenya to cooperate in third countries, say in Africa or the wider Indo-Pacific region?
Well, Kenya is the leading light of the East African community.
Right.
The East African community is the most robust, well-organized and growing regional organization in Africa. It now even includes the DR Congo from Central Africa. It has just admitted Somalia. So it is a growing area, and India's private sector-led relationship with Kenya, India's educational cooperation with Kenya, India's health and pharmaceutical cooperation with Kenya, all give a good basis for cooperation in the wider region. So therefore, Kenya is the springboard for India-East Africa cooperation, which is an area where I think we could well focus our attention.
And finally, Ambassador Singh, very quickly, if you will, does people-to-people ties play a crucial role in bringing the two governments and peoples together of India and Kenya? You spoke about the historical ties between India and Kenya. What can the two countries do to ramp up or boost more interactions between their peoples?
Actually, Kenya is an example where people-to-people cooperation has been more consistent and deep than government-to-government cooperation, which has been, varied. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's missing. So I think the Indian people of Indian origin, are the biggest creators of employment in Kenya. The large number of new Indian companies who have invested in Kenya using its good base and ambience is very important. For my book, The Harambe Factor, when I interviewed Indian businessmen, the choice was Kenya to invest in. That was the #1 choice. So I think there is very important relationship. The students are a very important relationship. Now I think there is an agreement between the IGNU and the Kenya Open University. So I think these are the areas where India and Kenya will continue to look, and certainly digital skills and digital finance are the two areas where I believe much more will be done in the years to come.
All right, on that note, Ambassador Singh, thank you so much for that wonderful exposition and interesting insights into India-Kenya ties and also India-Africa ties in general. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. All right, now to the other big story we're tracking here on NewsNight, the Cyclone Michaung. Now, the southern Indian coastal state of Andhra Pradesh remains on high alert as Cyclone Michaung's landfall process begins. Now, Michaung is expected to hit Andhra's Bapatla as a severe cyclonic storm with a maximum speed of 100 kilometers per hour. The state government has issued an alert for 8 districts, including Tirupati, Nellore, and West Godavari. More than 300 relief camps have been set up for people evacuated from the low-lying areas. The India Meteorological Department has warned that the state's coastal areas will receive extremely heavy rainfall.
Gaza district has no coastal line, but it's just 30 kilometers from the coastal belt. So we made all the arrangements to face the cyclone. Our target is there should not be any human loss. We are shifting the public from places where houses may collapse because of heavy rains. Cyclone rehabilitation centers are arranged along with food facilities. Joint operations teams in every mandal were ready with R&B, fire and police department representatives.
And my colleague Ravi Shankar joins us from Guntur in Andhra Pradesh for the latest. Ravi Shankar, good to see you on DD India News Hour. Now, has the process of the Michaung making landfall begun?
Yes. Recently, it hit the Bapatla coast. And as you see, Andhra Pradesh, it has a coastal region of 970 kilometers in total. And among that, Bapatla is the one which was absolutely hit by that Michaung cyclone. And a part of this, at about 4 mandals, mainly in Bapatla, are located just nearer to the sea coast. And at about 800 people got evacuated from those mandals, which were very sensitive in that places, and about 45 rehabilitation centers were arranged by the local administration, and all the 800 people were moved to that so-called rehabilitation centers. And if you see the government administration's arrangements, particular teams were formed to preserve the communications and other things, especially the communication and electricity with the R&B and the police and revenue. These 3 departments are working together to preserve these 3 departments, these 2 communication things. And if you go through the health things is in especially these government hospitals, power backup is very necessary. And in each and every government hospital, generators has been arranged to support the general public from this affected cyclone thing. And especially another thing is BJP President Purantheshwari gave a call to the BJP general cadre to help the victims of the cyclone, and a video conference also has been conducted by Mrs. Purantheshwari. And regarding trains, if you see the trains, at about 49 trains from Guntur Railway Division and at about 150 plus trains got cancelled in Vijayawada Railway Division. And regarding flights, you see at about 30 flights from Vijayawada Airport and at about 50 plus flights from Vizag Airport got cancelled. And because of this cyclone effect, especially the transport system got disturbed very much.
Ravi Shankar, what's the situation like in the vulnerable areas or districts of Andhra Pradesh in particular?
Yes, particularly those 4 mandals, as I said before, in Bapatla, we say Bapatla, Karlapalam and Nizampatnam, especially Nizampatnam. That is the highest rainfall got received in Nizampatnam only. It's at about 81 centimeters in the past for 24 hours, you can say. That is the highest rainfall possible in the past 20 years in Nizampatnam. And from there only, most of the people got evacuated to the rehabilitation center and made arrangements for them. And the Sri Lanka beach, which is very near to Bapatla, it is one of the famous attractions in Andhra Pradesh. It was completely closed, and tourists and all got restricted for the entry to that.
And finally, Ravi Shankar, very quickly, if you will, what are the precautions or advisories put out by the local administration in those affected areas or districts, so that there is minimum or minimal loss of life and damage to property?
Yes, sir. Here we should quote the Jagan Reddy, who is the CM of Andhra Pradesh. His words to the collectors in the yesterday video conference. He just quoted in the prayer that no human loss will be there in this occasion. So all the collectors were strictly informed to prevent any human loss. And regarding that, the collectors are acting very particularly.
All right, on that note, Ravi Shankar in Guntur in Andhra Pradesh, thank you for your inputs, appreciate it. That was my colleague Ravi Shankar giving us the latest on the Cyclone Michaung making landfall in coastal Andhra Pradesh. Right, in some more news, the Indian Railways has geared up its entire machinery to ensure smooth operations as the Cyclone Michaung led to the cancellation of at least 180 trains. The Railways has set up an emergency control cell to take necessary action in connection with train operations. The Southern Railways has also issued a list of emergency contact numbers for passengers. The list contains a number of railway officials, medical teams and emergency services. The main focus is on prevention of loss of life and on minimizing the damage to railway assets. Now, monsoon patrolling will be ensured in areas where trains are to be run despite the situation prevailing there. So that was about the situation in Andhra Pradesh. Let me now take you to Tamil Nadu, where Cyclone Michaung has earlier wreaked havoc in the state and the Union Territory of Puducherry as well. Now, DD India's Jaya Singh has more on this situation. All right, Jaya Singh joins us from Chennai.
There is no
Jaya
rain.
Singh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Jai Singh, what's the situation
Yes,
like in Tamil Nadu as we speak? We are told that schools and government offices have been shut down. What's the latest you can share with our viewers?
Well, there is a small brief respite from the rain. Now the sun is very bright and the sky is clear. There is no sign of any rain. But at the same time, on the ground, most of the areas in Chennai are still underwater, fully inundated. And water logging remains a very big issue, reminding the 2015 deluge that was due to the cloudburst that year. So now the situation is even a little more grim, and the officials and revenue and corporation and NDRF and SDRF are having very tough time in evacuating the stagnant water and restore the transportation fully. Railway, as you said, is making its best efforts to restore the express train services, and some of the trains have been reorganized to originate from nearby stations because Chennai Central is not in a position to receive express trains as in the past due to the inundation of one subway near the Central Railway Station, and the suburban train services is fully cut off, and the state government has announced holiday for all colleges and schools for third consecutive days for tomorrow as well. Since yesterday, colleges and schools remain closed due to the water inundation and rain problems issues.
Right, so as Jaya Singh was mentioning there, schools and government offices are shut down in the state of Tamil Nadu. Transportation has been hit, the roads have been waterlogged, and railway services have also been affected in some parts of the state. Jaya Singh in Chennai, thank you for now, appreciate it. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Home Minister likely to move 2 bills in the Lok Sabha. 3 survivors found after the Merapi volcano eruption in Indonesia. And the death toll in the Tanzania floods rises to 63.
Do you know that every year, hundreds of thousands of Indian students go abroad to pursue higher education? But now, India has opened its doors for foreign higher educational institutions who can set up and operate their campuses here.
Bringing these foreign university campuses will provide an additional opportunity to our students to study in foreign universities while staying in India.
How will you ensure that only the best universities come to India?
They should be within the top 500 ranks in the global rankings, although we have not specified any global ranking agency, but in general, or subject-wise, they should be within the 500 global rankings.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. On day 2 of the winter session of India's Parliament, India's Home Minister Amit Shah moved the Jammu and Kashmir Reservation Amendment Bill 2023, while in the Rajya Sabha, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman replied to the questions asked by lawmakers during question hour regarding the steps taken against the loan defaulters.
Last year, major bank collapses happened both in the United States of America and in Switzerland and in Germany. And here we are showing you figure year after year about NPA coming down. Doesn't that indicate the health of the banks in both these countries? Not only NPA is coming down, profit margins going up of the banks. 22-23, sir. It's come down, the scheduled commercial banks' net NPA ratio as a percentage has come down to 0.95. And it has come down to 1.24 in public sector banks.
And my colleague Dibyendu Mondal joins us from New Delhi for more on the latest developments from India's Parliament. Dibyendu, what more can you tell us about the bill moved by Home Minister Amit Shah in the Lok Sabha?
Well, the bill has currently been moved by Amit Shah, the Union Home Minister of India, in the Parliament, and in fact 2 bills, which is the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill 2023, as well as the Jammu and Kashmir Reservation Amendment Bill 2023. Both these bills have been together taken up for discussion inside the Parliament, and perhaps what the first, which is the Reservation Bill, aims to do is that it will provide reservation to the economically weaker section as well as caste-based reservation in the government institution and educational institution in Jammu and Kashmir, while the second amendment to Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Bill 2023 aims on the number of seats in the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly. It is also being talked about the fact that Jammu and Kashmir could perhaps very soon have an election in the state, because remember, since the formation of Jammu and Kashmir as a separate state from Ladakh, the election has not been, election is pending in that state. And this bill today, if and when it will be passed in both the houses of Parliament, will pave way for the election in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which has been long pending and being demanded by many of the political parties of that state. So perhaps this bill, which is being discussed and tabled in the lower house of Parliament right now as we speak, is perhaps making way for the creation of the state legislature in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Having said this, we also get to hear that the Union Home Minister Amit Shah could perhaps be speaking on the floor of the House somewhere between 3:30 to 4 p.m., where he will be giving a detailed statement about the aims, the objectives, and what this bill aims to achieve when it will be considered for passage in the lower house and then moving to the upper house of Parliament of India.
Dibyendu, thank you. That was my colleague Dibyendu Mondal with the latest on the developments in Parliament, who was joining us from New Delhi. Right, in some other foreign news now, at least 4 children and an adult were injured in an explosion in the northwestern Pakistani city of Peshawar. 2 of the children were in a critical condition. An improvised explosive device went off on a road in Peshawar. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack. Peshawar police chief said that there was no indication whether school children were the target of the attack. To Southeast Asia now, 3 survivors were found in Indonesia after the Merapi volcano erupted in West Sumatra, as search operations, which were halted temporarily over safety concerns, resumed. The rescue teams recovered 11 dead bodies out of 75 climbers who were in the area at the time of the eruption. 12 others are missing, and the search was suspended on Monday after another smaller eruption. There were 49 climbers evacuated from the area earlier, and many were being treated for burns. Authorities raised the alert to the second highest level and prohibited residents from going within 3 kilometers of the crater. In Africa, the death toll from floods in northern Tanzania has risen to 63 as heavy rainfall continues. The country's president, Samia Hassan, shortened her trip to the COP28 climate summit in Dubai to oversee the response to the disaster. Severe flooding caused by El Niño has forced hundreds of thousands from their homes in Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia and Tanzania. The floods come after the region was hit by its worst drought in 40 years. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Israel's military advances southward in the Gaza Strip.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. President William Ruto of Kenya holds talks with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. A number of agreements signed. The process of Cyclone Michaung making landfall in India begins. Andhra Pradesh on alert. Tamil Nadu declares a holiday. And in hockey, the Men's Junior World Cup 2023 begins in Malaysia. Two-time champion India to face South Korea. It's now been 4 days since the one-week temporary ceasefire between Israel and Gaza lapsed, and the Israeli military is now advancing southward in the Gaza Strip. Israeli tanks and armored vehicles are reported to be operating close to the Khan Yunis, the largest city in southern Gaza. The intensified strikes come after having largely gained control of the now devastated north. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Forces are consistently urging tens of thousands of Palestinians to relocate. It suspects that Hamas commanders are present in the city, where many have sought shelter after fleeing the conflict in the north. Israeli army spokesperson Daniel Hagari said in a briefing that the Hamas deliberately embeds itself among civilians so that Gazans will bear the consequences of the Hamas atrocities.
We have entered a new phase in our war against Hamas. Hamas broke the humanitarian pause when it violated the hostage release agreement by refusing to release women, children, and babies as agreed. Hamas also fired rockets at Israeli homes. It should be clear to everyone by now, Hamas chooses war. It has been 8 weeks since October 7th, and Hamas is still holding 137 of our people hostage. Babies, the elderly, women and men. Hamas does not value human life.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says that the United States will continue to press for the release of additional hostages held by the Hamas in Gaza.
We're still talking about trying to find a way forward on hostages. We're talking about sustaining and expanding the humanitarian assistance, making it into Gaza. Right now, Hamas is refusing to release civilian women who should have been part of the agreement. And it is that refusal by Hamas that has caused the end of the hostage agreement and therefore the end of the pause in hostilities.
Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres appealed to Israel on Monday to avoid further action that would worsen the already catastrophic situation in Gaza. UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric said, and I quote, "The Secretary General reiterates the need for unimpeded and sustained humanitarian aid flow to meet the needs of the people throughout the Strip. For people ordered to evacuate, there is nowhere safe to go and very little to survive on," unquote. During a United Nations event organized by Israel in New York City on Monday that focused on sexual violence against women during the 7th October attacks by Hamas, U.S. Senator from New York, Christine Gillibrand, said that the UN must hold Hamas accountable for the heinous crimes.
The world community must do more. It must demand accountability for these intolerable crimes. The United Nations must denounce Hamas as a terrorist organization that uses rape as a weapon of war. The United Nations must live up to its purpose of upholding the principles of international law, and the United Nations must condemn these evil crimes against humanity.
Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes targeted Hezbollah launch sites, a military compound, and what the Israeli army referred to as terror infrastructure, as shown in a video footage released on Tuesday. Now, on Monday, the White House said that the attack on 3 ships in the Red Sea over the weekend posed a serious threat to global peace and stability. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that Washington, D.C. has every reason to believe that these attacks are fully enabled by Iran.
This past weekend saw 4 attacks against 3 separate commercial vessels operating in international waters in the southern Red Sea. 3 vessels that are connected to 14 different nations, which goes to show you the extent to which this is truly a source of global concern and a threat to international peace and stability. We have every reason to believe that these attacks, while they were launched by the Houthis in Yemen, were fully enabled by Iran.
All right, let me now focus our attention on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Now, this comes as the Russian and Ukrainian forces continue to clash on Monday, each claiming to target the other's military assets. The Russian Defense Ministry reported repelling Ukrainian attacks and hitting personnel, weapon depots, armored vehicles, and intercepting rockets and drones. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military shot down 10 out of 17 attack drones launched overnight by Russia. During the COP28 event in Dubai on Tuesday, UAE's energy minister emphasized that emissions are the common enemy and that one needs to find ways to reduce it.
Let's not be focused on fighting one source of energy. The common enemy is emissions, and we need to reduce emissions. But at the same time, some of you have a duty to ensure that energy is available. There is a huge demand from many of those who live in absolute poverty, energy poverty. They demand to have a better life.
The COP28 Finance Day witnessed a landmark breakthrough in international financial architecture with major commitments from influential countries and financial institutions to introduce innovative mechanisms supporting low-income and vulnerable nations against climate change. COP28 President Dr. Sultan Al Jaber stressed the importance of including the developing world in the climate solutions.
Parties have rallied around a number of pledges and declarations that get the world moving in the right direction. That's the course correction we're talking about. That is us nurturing a new culture and a new DNA that is centered around making things happen.
India slashed greenhouse gas emissions by 33% between 2005 and 2019, highlighting the country's efforts to promote renewable energy. Tapas Bhattacharya has more.
India has shown remarkable progress in reducing its greenhouse gas emissions. India's emission intensity dropped by an astonishing 33% from 2005 to 2019. This achievement places India well on track to fulfill its commitment to the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, aiming to reduce emission intensity by 45% from 2005 level by 2030. Notably, the country experienced the fastest reduction in emission intensity to date, with an annual average reduction of 3% in the period of 2016-2019. This remarkable progress is largely attributed to government's initiatives towards renewable, despite fossil fuel maintaining a dominant position in the energy mix. The significant increase in forest cover has played a pivotal role in achieving this remarkable feat. As of 2019, India boasts of a substantial forest cover of 24.56%, covering 80.73 million hectares. India's GDP between 2005 to 2019 has grown with cumulative annual growth rate of about 7%, whereas the emission grew about 4%. This shows that India has successfully continued to decouple its economic growth from greenhouse gas emissions, resulting in the reduction of the emission intensity of its GDP by 33% between 2005 and 2019. India's share of non-fossil sources-based installed capacity of electricity generation in 2023 is more than 41%. India achieved its NDC target of 40% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy sources in 2021, 9 years in advance of the target date of 2030. As India continues its journey towards a sustainable future, the focus on renewable energy, increased forest cover, and innovative solutions like green hydrogen mark a significant stride in mitigating climate change. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, TD India.
The third edition of the India Internet Governance Forum took place in New Delhi's Bharat Mandapam on Tuesday. The third edition of the IIGF is being conducted under the overarching theme of moving forward, calibrating Bharat's digital agenda. DD India's Deepika had an exclusive interaction with Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. Take a listen.
First of all, many congratulations to you on having the India Internet Governance Forum 2023. When we talk about India's aim to become a developed nation by the year 2047 and also third largest economy by the year 2030, how important internet governance becomes over here?
Look, one of the important reasons for India's dramatic and sharp growth in the last 9 years, and really the transformation qualitatively and quantitatively of our economy, has been Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's focus on the digital economy. Ever since he launched the Digital India in 2015, the digital economy has grown at 2.5 times the normal economy. We were 4.5% of the total GDP in 2014, the digital economy was. Today we are 11%, and by 26 it will be 20%. So digital economy is not just transforming the lives of citizens, transforming governance and democracy. It is also creating more and more opportunities for our young Indians, creating entrepreneurship opportunities, startup opportunities, and also creating deep technological capabilities in a manner where India is being transformed as a nation. We were a consumer of technologies for 30 years. Today we are producing devices, products, platforms, solutions for the rest of the world. So all of this momentum has to be carried into the next 10 years, as the Prime Minister calls it, the India Decade. And that will be certainly one of the biggest determinants and gateways to his vision of being the third largest economy from the fifth largest and being a developed nation. So I have absolutely no doubt that both digital and entrepreneurship will play a big role in Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's vision of a Vikasit Bharat. And I have absolutely no hesitation in saying the last 9 years of transformation in the country has been deeply impacted by and enabled by his Digital India vision.
The Indian Council for Cultural Relations has taken a unique initiative of hosting 85 foreign academics under the Knowledge India program. For the first time, 85 senior academics from 39 countries, largely heads of department teaching subjects of Indian knowledge system, have been invited by the ICCR. Now, Knowledge India is one of its kind initiatives by the Ministry of External Affairs, under which the ICCR aims at promoting higher learning of Indian knowledge systems and the issues faced in its teaching learning globally.
So this is a program in which heads of the departments, academic and intellectuals of the world who work on the subjects like Indology, Buddhism and Indian languages have been brought here. And the more I think, the more I realize how Sanskrit was the foundation of most languages. The thousands of years of knowledge and language has not continued, and few hundred-year-old history is what has become the mainstream subject. So more and more in-depth knowledge of Sanskrit, connected literature, connected knowledge systems will help build a better world, because culture connects.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's stock market indices rise, open at new record highs for the second consecutive session. And India to start its Hockey Men's Junior World Cup 2023 campaign against South Korea.
That never stops, where information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution.
This series is going to tell stories of such change makers.
Watch Change Makers on DD India.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future, because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. And now to some business news. India's stock market indices rose on Tuesday, opening at new record highs for the second consecutive session. The upward momentum was fueled by a strong macroeconomic data, speculations of a US rate cut in March, and the success of the country's ruling party, the BJP, in key state elections. At 12 noon local time, the Nifty rose 73.6 points to 20,760.4, while the Sensex was up 222.17 points at 69,087.29. Asian stocks slipped to 3-week lows, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index slumped to a one-year trough on Tuesday, while bonds and the dollar steadied as investors tempered expectations for cuts to U.S. interest rates and waited on U.S. jobs data. This data is anticipated to influence expectations regarding a potential early year interest rate cut by the Federal Reserve. And now to all the news in the world of sport with my colleague Anil Thomas. Anil, over to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Taking first stock of cricket in particular, where South Africa have named their squads for that multi-format home series against India beginning from the 10th of December. The tour begins with 3 T20s followed by 3 ODIs and finally 2 test matches, which will be part of the ICC World Test Championship cycle for the year 2023-2025. Themba Bavuma and Kasigo Rabada have been rested for the ODI leg of the tour and will return for the test. Gerald Coetzee, Marco Jensen, Lungi Nigari will miss the final T20s as well as the ODI series. 3 players have got a call-up into, or rather have got their maiden calls into the dressing rooms. The England and Wales Cricket Board announced the launch of Cricket Regulator, an independent body which will be responsible for monitoring compliance with the game's regulations, enforcement of adherence to those regulations and providing relevant information and education. An independent cricket regulatory body will oversee the cricket regulator and will be ring-fenced from the rest of the ECB, according to the board announcement. The cricket regulator will be responsible for different areas of work that had previously been in ECB's remit, including safeguarding integrity, anti-corruption, misconduct, anti-doping and anti-discrimination. Two-time champions India will start their campaign in the FIH Hockey Men's Junior World Cup 2023 against the Republic of Korea in Kuala Lumpur today. Uttam Singh will captain the Indian side. The 13th edition of the Junior Hockey Men's World Cup will see 16 teams divided equally into 4 groups compete for the top 2 spots in their group to secure a place in the quarterfinals. The bottom 2 teams from each group will enter the classification rounds. In tennis, Rafael Nadal, the former world #1, is gearing up for a comeback after a hip surgery. In a recent post on social media, he shared his nerves about returning after nearly a year. Let's take a look at this report.
Rafael Nadal, the former world #1, is gearing up for a comeback after hip surgery. In a recent Instagram video, he shared his nerves about returning after nearly a year, expressing a desire to forgive himself if the comeback is gradual. The Spaniard posted a short video to his Instagram account explaining he has felt nervous about announcing his plan to return.
I've been afraid to announce things because in the end it's a year without competing and it's a hip operation. But what worries me the most is not the hip, it's everything else. I think I'm ready and I trust and hope that things go well. It gives me the opportunity to enjoy myself on the court.
Having last played at the Australian Open due to the hip flexor issue, Nadal underwent surgery in June and now aims to embrace the journey without the intense standards he's known for. In the video, the tennis great says he hopes to be able to play without demanding of himself the high standards he has held himself to throughout his storied career.
I have internalized what I have had throughout my life, which is to demand myself the maximum. And right now, what I really hope is to be able to not do that. Not to demand of me the maximum. To accept that things are going to be very difficult at the beginning and to give myself the necessary time and forgive myself if things go wrong at the beginning, which is a very big possibility.
The 22-time Grand Slam champion anticipates feeling the familiar mix of nerves, excitement and doubts as he steps back onto the court.
Well, that's all in the world of sports. Back to Ramesh Ramchandran for more updates.
Thank you, Anil. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Great.